Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, The Last Days of Europe, as the US of A. Now, in the last video, we started campaigning for the National Progressive Party. Tricky Dick went ahead and tricked old Johnny Boy, JFK, into introducing the Civil Rights Act. It got passed, but Nixon vetoed it, so we don't have civil rights anymore, and people are very, very upset at Nixon. Understandably so. We're working on campaigning in the Great Lakes, because I think we're going to more or less clutch out the West Coast, because we did a decent campaign there. I think that'll move things in our favor. We have time to do one more campaign. Otherwise, I would consider maybe doing some other campaigning. Yeah. Excuse me, over the break I got some chocolate milk, and so I'm enjoying that. We're gonna do our best to try to push the Republican guy in Wisconsin over, and maybe bring this up to a toss-up in Illinois. Try to flip things there. Though we'll wait and see about that, won't we? And then the Rockies, I don't think the Dems will be able to flip that this time around, but it was worth a shot. Anyhow, we have yet another leak coming up. Richard Nixon stands at the Oval Office, thoughtfully looking out of a window. Dawn broke on the far horizon, a blazing orange-red sun rising in the distance, casting warm light across the White House lawn. He sighs. It was going to be another long, dull day. Meetings and bills and foreign policy. A sharp rap on the door jolts him slightly. Someone won a award at 6:15 this morning. Nixon pauses for a second and nods. Come in. H.R. Haldeman steps through the doorway, a newspaper rolled in his fist. What is it? Nixon asks. Bad news, Dick. We're not done with Burnham yet. Found another ward. Haldeman flings a paper down on the president's desk, turning it around such that Nixon could read the headline. Nixon supporting Guyanese segregation. Whistleblower. Bruh! Nixon mutters to himself. He reads the article. Somehow the news found out. Somehow they knew the government got Forbes Burnham elected. Somehow they knew that Nixon administration still supported him in his racial segregation policies. Nixon rubs his nose, taking a deep breath. Haldeman, get Kennedy and Laird. Call a meeting. I need a phone line to the CIA director. So a bit of a bonus is social democratic support. And we have Surf and Safari making waves. Southern California seems to hold a near mythical status in the American public consciousness. It's a land of endless summers, idyllic beaches, and gorgeous sunsets where you can live a carefree life in the surf and sand. Now, of course, many Californians would consider their life to be anything but carefree. But that doesn't stop people from believing what they want. The mythos is seeping into media about California, like films, television, and especially music. A vocal harmony group from Hawthorne, California, who call themselves the Beach Boys, recently released their first album, Surf and Safari, to moderate success. Although they've had regional success with a few singles, their producer Capitol Records has surprisingly reported satisfactory sales on the album nationwide. Other so-called surf rock acts like Dick Dale and Jan and Dean are also recording their own studio albums, and some are wondering whether they will also find success away from the Pacific Coast. Is this the future of rock and roll? I'm curious who the RDs are going to campaign for. If they're going to campaign at all. Central East Coast, that's... Let's see, I'm not too worried about that, honestly. Yeah, the victories we have there are likely to go anyway. Civilian austerity is done. We'll cut more civilian spending. We'll pay off more of that debt. President Richard Nixon met today with Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru at the White House today. The meeting, the first between Nixon and Nehru, was the first stop on the Prime Minister's visit to the United States, soon to be followed by multiple stops in Washington, Virginia, and New York. At the Oval Office, President Nixon reaffirmed America's commitment to deepening America's political and economic ties to India. India is a vast nation, blessed with multitudes of resources and a rising population. It is a belief of this administration that the United States of America would be foolish if we did not embrace your republic and all the opportunities that it offers the world. Following the President's remarks, Prime Minister Nehru returned with cordiality of his own. The people of India are on the verge of great success in the fields of economic, societal progress, and national development. We wish to use this success to join hands with the free world, and would like to thank the President for his efforts to bring our nations closer together. Well, what's next? Hamburgers in Bombay? Next, we're going to go ahead and bring out the tinderbox. Make no mistake, the colonies Japan had won from Europe may fuel its economy to meteoric heights, but they are by no means eager in fulfilling the quotas chained to their backs. Discontent is a pox concomitant to what the Japanese planners disdainfully called the Southern Resource Area, where haphazardly scattered freedom fighters violently returned Tokyo's denigrations onto its beleaguered puppet regimes. The rising sun expects pliant mines and oil wells out of Southeast Asia. Instead, it acquires only a trayful of kindling right underneath its boot heels. In accordance, Langley has drawn up for sprinklings literal and figurative gunpowder throughout the region, then setting it alight with a right and proper spark. So we'll go ahead and weigh our options. Speaking of which, I'll go ahead and check out the plans over here. We're still carrying out Operation Jewel. We can't set up stuff in this region yet. Which one is Operation Jewel? This Anglo Friends, correct. Yeah, that sounds about right. Forbes Burnham was no idiot. He knew that the key to executing any coup was to limit communication during, only letting the people find out about the coup once it was a fait accompli, which is why he made sure to invite the American and Canadian ambassadors to a formal dinner. While they ate filet and sipped champagne, the soldiers of the Guyana's defense force occupied the Parliament building, shutting down the switchboards and broadcasting stations, dragged out MPs out of their homes and into police vans, and carried out summary trial, court-martials, and sentencings for particularly egregious traitors to the public. It was not until Ambassador Stephen King returned to the American embassy that he learned of what had transpired, and a jury-rigged chain of communications managed to put him back in touch with Washington. Nixon called an emergency meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and one conclusion was reached. This shall not stand. Not on our watch. Blah! So, they removed puppet status from Guyana, and we're going to declare war on them. The U.S. is going to go ahead and declare war on them. So we gotta find our navy. We can find our boats. Here it is. We have a fairly large fleet over here, so we'll go ahead, merge these fellas up, and we'll give them an admiral. We'll go with Horatio Rivero Jr. And we'll have we need to escort them from Florida coast through the Caribbean Sea and into the Demerane Plain. So we'll do naval invasion support all throughout here. Polls are updated. Let's see how they're looking. Vermont's a toss-up. Likely safe victory in Penn. Toss-up in Georgia. Alaska's still a toss-up. Colorado's a toss-up now, which is very interesting. Same in Nevada. We might have wanted a campaign there instead of the Great Lakes. Well, they're campaigning on the East Coast, so that won't change things too much. So, we are gonna... There's, a big, First off, we gotta wait for the rest of these guys to get in position. There's, a really complicated plan. This guy in on the Invasion? I don't think he shouldn't be. There's a really complicated plan to help the NPP get into as much power as possible, where you can go ahead and just a stellar campaign. Beautiful. That might be what we need. Where you can do this like overly complicated stuff, like well, not overly complicated, but just like wait out Guyana and be forced to a white peace. Which I don't want to do that, just because that's gonna not look good for us. And I still want to have a somewhat solid game here. And let's see how they do. I made middling campaign. Yeah, that won't change things too much. Good afternoon, Dick, Jake Hoover said as he stepped into the Oval Office, quietly shutting the door behind him. Nixon furrowed his brow and replied, "I told you not to call me that." "You tell me lots of things, Mr. President." "Well, I had to postpone the one press conference where the media wasn't going to be after my head, so this better be good." What Hoover had to say wasn't good, but it certainly was important. The FBI's investigation of origin of a blackmailer had seen little success, but there still remained the question of what to do with the blackmail itself. Hoover, ever cautious and considerate, asked the president whether it would be best to seal it away in some classified vault or destroy it as much as possible. Either way, it would hopefully stay buried forever. Although it could see some value in the future, the existence of blackmail could, after all, prove a rather large boon to the president for the upcoming midterm elections. Burn it all. So yeah, we'll wait until the elections go through. And then we'll do it. Class 3 Senate elections. Okay, West Coast big wins. Idaho. Gains in Great Lakes. Very nice. Okay, so Republicans lost 9 seats. The center picked up 8. Democrats picked up 1. Wow, Connecticut went to the center. I didn't expect that. That was closer than I figured it would be. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's get working on this invasion. So I can upgrade the... Yeah, that should have... Yeah, that went ahead and updated the Senate. 23... The majority are Democrats. And the Democrats and Republicans still have a majority. But the center has made a notable amount of gains. Mr. President, we believe the best way to curtail Japanese economic military power is to draw them into new and escalating conflicts, get them bogged down in a new jungle war, and they'll feel the pain. President Nixon nods carefully, considering his advisor's comments. Alright, Bob, go on. President... Alright, I read that, what the fuck. One of McNamara's aides walks up with a pair of rolled-up maps. Each one bears a detailed map of a Southeast Asian country. 2 of the largest potential targets are Indonesia and the Philippines. Indonesia is both a literal and political archipelago, riven by Japanese resources extraction, military regimes, and native collaborators. Meanwhile, the Philippines is a rebellious nation, as we know well, and the population is believed to be very resentful of their occupiers. Both countries have active rebel groups, which we could use as proxies against Tokyo. Nixon pressed his hand together in a gesture of contemplation, staring back at the black and red markings that dot the map. Okay, Rob, what form will this proxy warfare be taken? McNamara's aides pull out more maps, more lists, more exclamations. And over the course of the morning, a bloodless strategy to drive new knives into Empire Japan takes forms. There are no priests of honor. So we'll go ahead and call up Indonesia. What atrocities the IJA and their lackey Sukarno have committed have done little to uproot Indonesia's resistance movement out of the shadows. The Indonesian people's well-known reputation for guerrilla warfare, first against the Dutch, now against the Japanese, ensured a strong, discrete network of blind spots and contacts within the archipelago running without pause for decades. One could ask for no better lifeline for the myriad rebel groups, all waiting for an opportune moment to swing their dolorous strike. Through mutual friends' facilitation, the CIA will export earmarked materials to the rebels' thankful hands. With arms and ammunition on hand, the rebels can slink back in the unseen nooks and crannies of the Indonesian jungles, waiting days, weeks, months, however long it takes for them to strike. And when that time comes, they will be well stocked and ready. There we are. Ooh, okay. This briefing was assembled at the behest of Central Intelligence Agency along with assets in USACOM. Warning, the following briefing is classified as Secret Eyes Zulu Bujum. If you do not have that clearance, leave the auditorium now and report to your unit security officer for debriefing. Failing to observe this notice is an imprisonable offense. You have 60 seconds to comply. Video. A fish-eyed view of foggy ocean, the waves lapping at the camera over and over again. All is silent save the sound of water until a faint foghorn breaks with tranquility. Through the fog, a lone fishing trawler, waving English flags, floats close to the camera. Activity on the deck as the men pull in lines and stow their hard-earned prize from the sea. Shadow can be seen deeper in the fog, larger and more imposing. A large foghorn is heard as a large vessel floats onto view with its imposing 15-inch guns, its vast assortment of anti-aircraft weaponry, and its large flying swastika. Voiceover. This is the DKM Tirpitz, one of the Reich's largest battleships. It has just entered into the Islamic Economic Exclusion Zone while escorting a fleet of British trawlers. This is a violation of our allies' sovereign rights and a national security threat to the United States assets. We can only assume that even more Kriegsmarine assets are operating in the area, and we advise immediate mobilization of USN forces in the area to counter the Reich's aggressive posturing. Send more forces into the area, then. Alright, crap, my foot's starting to fall asleep. That's not good. We'll get some air assault, some more organization for those boys. We can get, first off, preemptive strike. And what do we want with this? How are we on artillery? Let's get working on better artillery stuff, I suppose, then. Italy wins the war. Very interesting. Yeah, there we are. And so, no more election year, so we don't have to have our eyes glued over to this, the decisions menu quite so much. Send results are in. Polls are updated. It's not going to change much. Candidates and voters, you've done America proud. There we go. And Vladivostok, fun Koreans go after Japan. Ooh. Yesterday, German fighters based out of northern England nearly shot down a CIA U-2C piloted by Lieutenant Francis Gary Powers. Powers just entered English airspace when four Horten HoI 229 fighter wings were detected on radar. However, three were forced to turn back due to fuel range, and one of which crashed from North Sea when it got overzealous and ran out of fuel for a return trip. The final aircraft managed to get within missile range and fired at Powers with what appears to be experimental missile design, specifically to shoot down the U-2 before peeling off to return to base. Powers evaded the missile, then proceeded on course to complete his mission and return to Eisenhower AFB in Iceland. Due to the classified nature of the mission, we cannot let it be known publicly that our aircraft was engaged by German fighters. No diplomatic protest will be issued, and no German scare will take the front page of News Morning. Not this time. Ooh, right, I forgot. We need to do that naval invasion. Oh, we already did. My bad. Shit. Okay, offensive line. Go get them, boys. Alright, we'll send... We'll send you there. To Cayenne. I was wondering what was taking so long, and then I realized I'm being a dingus, and I didn't actually, Okay, and then we'll move into Georgetown, and that should be it. Either Georgetown or Cayenne. That's going to end the war. There we go. Let's go and influence the partisans. The Indonesian partisans are not united. Some of them would prefer a socialist Indonesia, and others among them are of an Islamist persuasion. Neither of these are ideal. The socialists are much more aligned to our interest. As a result, they will receive some preferential treatment from Uncle Sam. When the time comes for a struggle, these socialists will surely then emerge as prime candidates for national leadership. All we must do is wait. After several days of sporadic fighting between Guinea's militia forces and the forces of the American Expeditionary Forces landing on the coast, Pentagon announced today that Guinea's President Forbes Burnham was taken into custody this evening. American troops now patrol the streets of Paramiri that and Georgetown in an interim capacity till the government of the Guineas people assumes control of the nation. With widespread disorganization, report from within the Guineas military following Burnham's coup, defense analysis had expected that the American policing issue would face little opposition. The State Department released a press release welcoming intervention, success, and the return of genuine democracy in Guyana, expressing high hopes for future cooperation with the government in waiting on matters of mutual agreement. Be our friend, or else. Yeah, that works for me. Operation Cherry. Yankee Stadium. The stadium, most known for hosting the legendary New York Yankees baseball game, became beside the ultimate football conclusion, the NFL championship game. Its very tradition pitted the Packers against the Giants in brutal 60-minute slugfest. The weather on field registered as 17 degrees Fahrenheit, -8 Celsius for all you Europeans, with 35 to 40 mile per hour, 56 to 64 kilometer per hour winds. One of the coldest sports events ever played. The Packers, led by legendary Hall of Fame coach Vince Lombardi and University of Alabama quarterback Bart Starr, faced a stalwart New York defense led by middle linebacker Sam Huff and defensive end Andy Robustelli. NBC broadcast widely anticipated game across the U.S. Packers started off strong, scoring first and points unopposed in the first half. The Giants came back with a touchdown, but their team would never match its opposition's point total. The Packers would win the championship by a total of 16-7 after kicking 2 more field goals. The MVP of the game was Ray Nitschke, Packers middle linebacker, who recorded 2 fumbles and a pass deflection for the Green Bay defense. Another proud achievement for the state of Wisconsin. I'm waiting. Is the budget going to be renewed? Yep, okay. Free Bulgaria? Who saw that coming? Okay, we'll do some investments there. We'll build up the port of Magadan. We'll do Operation Cherry. Actually, can I wait until it's not. Operation commenced. And where else can we unlock? Red, white, and blue balloons scream into the air as a muggy afternoon wind rustles the bunting strew liberally over the streets of Montgomery. George Wallace steps down from the podium to thunderous applause, the crowd hooting and hollering, flushed from his triumphal victory speech. Wallace walks from the podium to the state capitol, smiling and waving to the crowd, ready to be sworn in for a second time as the governor of Alabama. Well, it's unsurprisingly not uncommon for the winner of a gubernatorial election to celebrate the fact this is a more momentous occasion than appears on the surface. For the first time, a politician of the NPP has been re-elected to any position, and the party members are celebrating all across the nation, even though some of the left-leaning center faction opposed to the policy of Wallace's far-right faction can be sound celebrating the party's triumph. This is undeniably cements the increasing importance of the NPPs in American politics, as it rises in stature to be a viable second party able to challenge the dominance of the RDs. Well, this is just a runoff fluke or a portent of things to come, however, remains to be seen. There's a new sheriff in town, though. We'll unlock operations in East Asia, just for the future. I don't know if anything will end up happening, but just in case. How do you move one of the most famous paintings in the world from its regular home across an ocean and on display without damaging it or risking the threat of robbery? It's simple. Pack it in a specially designed, bulletproof casing that will also protect it from temperature, humidity, and UV rays, and make it waterproof and floatable just to be on the safe side. Then transport it under armed guards with motorcades, block traffic, and more, to deliver it to the ship to take it on its trip across the Atlantic. Then, when it does arrive in New York, load it in an armored van and take it to the National Gallery of Art in Washington. And when it's finally displayed, station 2 Marines, each loaded with rifles on either side to ensure no one gets near it. The The more interesting question, however, is why would you send one of the most famous paintings in the world to the U.S.? When the French heard that their government was considering loaning the Mona Lisa to the U.S. for a couple months, there were protests and riots. The painting had been in the Louvre for so long, through war and catastrophe, an enduring symbol of French cultural history, even was taken from the Italians hundreds of years ago, and now it was being given to the Americans? What a travesty this is. To hell with diplomacy, this is an outrage that can never be lived down. With the 500,000 Americans, including the President, every member of the House of Reps and the Senate, the Justices of the Supreme Court, and many, many more average people, the image of a lady has captivated them. For her enigmatic smile, expertly captured by Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa has captivated a nation and people that, for so long, was considered uncultured. Within weeks, museums and art galleries around the U.S. reported an uptick in visits to see what they had on display, even if nothing could match the graceful lady that will soon return back home. I always thought it was bigger. Okay, we built up Magadan's port. Operational success. Beautiful. More expertise. We can do some arms shipments to Magadan if we so wish. Oh! There we go. After the end of a nail-biting election that literally came down fractions of a percentage, what does that remind you guys of? Untested politician John Glenn has been elected governor of Ohio for the Republican wing of the RD party. A popular figure among middle Americans and a household name for most of his auspicious career as America's most prominent astronaut, Glenn's victory had cemented the political ambitions that began when he gave a major speech criticizing Nixon's decision to defund NASA. For now, Glenn sits in the Ohio State House planning his next move, thinking in decades. With his popular support and now his political foothold as governor, there's practically no limit to how far his ambition can take him. Already, he imagines himself in the White House and begins to set forward his glacial plans to get there and change the fate of America forever, even if such a goal would be yet so far away. The phone rings. He picks it up, knowing Nixon to be on the other line, and accepts the president's great congratulations with magnanimity. Glenn knew he could deal with Nixon and his ilk. No one could stand in the way of his presidency. One giant leap. Oh, that's just beautiful. Well, good afternoon, Mr. President. There's some good news and some bad news today. Your veto of the act progressives try to push through seems to have taken the wind out of their sails, and although analysts are projecting protests to continue into the near future, looks like the worst is over. The Midwest and New England are naturally quite upset about how this all turned out, but we can lose to afford some slack, for now at least. And here's the bad news. Those slanderers in the press are on us again, calling your veto terms such as, overreach of power and a dirty trick. It's like I've never even heard of the term of politics and reality. But there's a lot of people turning away from our party now, not in the least for senators who defected. I mean, there are even rumors about your very own Vice President Kennedy jumping ship to the NPP and running as their 64 candidate. Can you believe it? Goddamn Kennedy stabbing the bat nation in the back again. The nerve of some people. Well, they'll shut up eventually. I'm sure they will. So we can go ahead and do Operation Jewel. Help shore up our Anglo friends in power. Influence the partisans. Go ahead and pay off some more debt. And next, let's go working on the Forgotten Allies and then go working on some of this stuff. The old Entente assumed the German people had learned love of peace in the Great War. They also assumed the German government had held true to its promises thereafter. Moreover, they assumed that the German army had no business prevailing against the combined forces of two world empires that they were folded in a second war as they had in the first. Germany proved them wrong on all three accounts by raising the swastika over Paris and London. On that ignoble climax, has America since been forced to leave its allies' governments to Hitler's mercy. Operative Ward says with CIA governments, with an appropriately sized black budget, the allies' rest of people won't be forgotten no longer. Well, that's all we can hope for, really. Construction. We're doing bang-up jobs all across the country right now. In fact, I think I'll up the construction budget a little bit more. I'll cut austerity a bit. I'll up it for a little bit. I'll downgrade it later. Scotland wants fighters. Yeah, we can agree at these terms. Why not? Got special forces done, which we'll go ahead. Guess we'll do more artillery first, and then we'll go ahead and do jungle force mountains. This right here is what we want to get working on. Expand special forces programs. Okay, the NPP is seeing an is growing in influence and popularity across the nation, is increasingly seen as a viable alternative to decades-long RD dominance of American politics. The NPP is on the rise. It could certainly be made to rise a little higher if, for example, some government resources were sent their way without anyone else being the riser. Alternatively, we could show up support of the RD instead and hope the NPP's rise is nothing more than passing fad. Nevertheless, whoever we choose will have a bigger chance of winning the race to the Oval Office in '64. I think it's time for some change. I think let's unlock the Middle East right now. Operation Locust, help out the Jews. They may be bastards, but damn it if they aren't our bastards. I'll wait until we finish up the that's good enough. The problem lay buried, unspoken for many years in the minds of American women. It was a strange stirring, a sense of dissatisfaction, a yearning that women suffered in the middle of the 20th century in the United States. Over and over, women heard in voices of tradition and Freudian sophistication that they could desire no greater destiny than to glory in their own femininity. The American housewife, freed by science and labor-saving appliances from the drudgery, the dangers of childbirth, and the illness of her grandmother. In 15 years after World War II, this mystique of feminine fulfillment became the cherished and self-perpetuating core of contemporary American culture. But on an April morning in 1959, I hear a mother of four, having coffee with four of the mothers in a suburban development 15 miles from New York, saying in a tone of quiet desperation, "The problem." And the others knew, without words, that she was not talking about a problem with her husband, or her children, or her home. Later after, they picked up their children at nursery school and taken them home to nap. Two of the women cried in sheer relief, just to know they were not alone. I begin to feel like I have no personality. I'm a server of food and a putter-on of pants and a bedmaker, someone who can be called on when you want something. But who am I? Betty Friedan, the feminine mystique. I want something more than my husband and my children and my home. I can get some more research, which I think will go ahead. We'll get another 100 million. We'll do, what, holocoins? Oh, we need more expertise. Okay. Alright, well. We'll hold off on Operation Jewel for now, then. Mr. President, we believe a dam is about to burst in Madagascar. Maurice wanted out. The perfect storm of pressures and crises seemed about ready to completely tear the Indian Oceans apart. The president sat down in his chair, switching the phone to his left hand as he shifted through some of the papers on his desk. What's going on? I haven't had any information in my daily briefings on the issue. The last I heard was when we spoke right after we lifted the blockade. Well, Mr. President, there's a pandemic of black plague going across the countryside. The Jews of the North are getting uppity, so to say, especially because of the chaos back in the mother country. SS units across the island have been in constant contact with Himmler and his underlings. Maurice is terrified he may be shot any day by his own guards, and the natives may revolt soon as well. For what it's worth, we agree with his assessment that Madagascar is about to become a war zone. A perfect storm, alright. Well, get me straight. What are our options? Realistically speaking, that is. Well, Mr. President, you have two realistic options. The agency can effect the delivery of several crates of weapons, rifles, grenades, pistols, the like, for Maurice to hand out to his loyalists. The other option is simply bribe him a lump sum of money. He can then use that sum for bribery or purchase of his own, or what have you. Well, we are the arsenal of democracy, after all. Let's step out a friend, shared heritage, inseparable economic ties, and a common purpose forged in the Great War's fiery baptisms has created a special kind of relationship between Uncle Sam and Fair Britannia. Their bond inadequately explains we're only one to examine a small parcel of both their histories, whether as erstwhile colonies and overlords, as adversaries in the world stage, or as allies against a fascist menace. Though Britain's wooden wall has been broken before the Reich's assailants and made puppet of their free man, America's heart and mind yearns still to wrestle their freedoms back. Luckily, a force which can still affect such exists in Her Majesty's most loyal resistance. President Nixon pledges to uphold their special relationship both before and after, when America's other hand is played. That works for me. On January 20th, a Camp Itai agent attacked Adolf Hitler in an attempt to assassinate him, but was stopped short by German security forces, who swiftly shot him dead. Despite the undeniable Camp Itai connection held by the agent, leaked Abwehr documents and sources close to Sunshine show no evidence of Japanese involvement, despite material and method matching perfectly. This is collaborated by both Sakura and Lilly, but sources close to the IJN and IJA cannot verify further the information. And friendly agents in Germany were able to retrieve the body and weapon for closer analysis. 2. Hitler's health has been in a constant state of decline ever since the signing of the armistice. There is strong reason now to believe that he is no longer competent to lead Germany, as many of his deputies have been delegated to various ministers and aides. Any attempt at high-level diplomatic contact should be considered impossible while Germany lacks a competent Führer. 3. Despite an official nomination of a Führer, the successor, the Führer's succession line is far from assured. With the four candidates jostling for favor from the army, students, and other power bases, the situation is quickly turning volatile. The immediate withdrawal of Sunshine and Eagle is recommended for consideration. 4. Adolf Hitler is estimated to have a maximum of 6 months left to live. 5. Should Adolf Hitler die, a wide-scale armed conflict is almost inevitable in Germany. 6. Should an extended conflict break out in Germany, the Unity Pact is likely to collapse, though armed conflict between the German Reichskommissariats seems unlikely, with internal unrest posing a much greater issue for many of them. Understood? Huh. Let's invest our investment into Magadan. Well done, gentlemen. Okay, now we can go ahead. Let's look at Magadan. How are they doing? Superior firepower. There we go. There's the Madagascar and Civil War. It'll be interesting to see how this ends up going. Madagascar is immediately getting encircled. Surfin' USA, a smash hit. California surf rock group, the Beach Boys, are at it again, releasing their second album, Surfing USA, to acclaim nationwide. While some thought that the success of Surfing Safari was a fluke and they would have quickly returned to being a regional success at best, the album's statistics have blown those doubts out of the water. Get it? Because we're surfers? The album has risen to number 2 on the Billboard's Hot 200 albums nationwide, an absolutely meteoric rise for any musical group, let alone a bunch of relative newcomers to the recording industry. Seems the Beach Boys were able to capture the California mythos and encapsulate it in a record, with their carefree and fun-having lyrics about surfing, the beaches of LA, and the girls that inhabit them. The American people are positively enchanted by it, and people are scrambling to get their hands on singles and LPs as soon as the record stores have them in stock. A new national tour is being planned for the fall, an Australian one for the winter, while some are concerned that it'll keep the Beach Boys out of the studio and unable to produce a new album sooner. Many others are delighted for their chance to see their new favorite band. Everybody's gone surfing, surfing USA. Hey, hey. What falls faster, a man or his shares? The men stood by the sill calmly and waited their turn to jump. The Tokyo Exchange Secretary out with a crash. We'll do organic units, and then I want to get working on air support as soon as we can, because South Africa is going to be coming soon. By October, I believe. And so air support to help them out would be very good. So we can target the NPP far right, try to diminish their image, or the Yankees, and anyone else really. I think I'm good there. It wasn't uncovered until the next morning when a janitor noticed flecks of paint on the ground. He inspected the room and realized it had come from the window frame, which had been pried open during the night with a crowbar. The police were swiftly called, and the RD headquarters turned into a crime scene. Needless to say, the atmosphere in the White House was one of anxiety. There were no eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, and no signs of a getaway vehicle. Everyone felt that it had to be the NPP in search of re-election campaign strategies, but if the president and those in the know had far greater fears. If the NPP, or someone sympathetic to their cause, was indeed behind the robbery, what they might have found about Nixon's less than reputable campaign strategies from 1960. The past has a way of haunting people. Helping out a friend. There we go. Let's reach out to some old friends. And then let's go ahead and do First Fallen Domino. Keeping with its long, hallowed history of weaving polite fictions through force of will, the Reich has proclaimed Norway as a territory no less integral to its natural borders than the Rhineland and Bavaria. The Germanic peoples share destiny, and Germania's presumable fever dreams supersede queries laden with common sense, such as how many Norwegians buy their tripe, and how many Germans would give their lives for Oslo. There at least exists an answer for the first question, namely scant few outside of a collaborator government sway. Whereas the Einheit Pact, a line of dominoes, Langley surmises that Norway's peace wobbles to and fro near the front, and with a gentle poke. There we go. What is the Levant up to? In other news, Bob Charles has won the Scottish Open. To many of the spectators and fans of the sport, this has been seen as an upset, as fan favorites such as Arnold Palmer placed in a measly 26. Evan Stevens, a reporter for NBC, tried to remember some of the details of the night before. Like most of his fellow casters, they all followed the sport. Most of them would play in one of the annual golf games for the station. However, for the most part, they knew the basics. Evan knew that for American population that actually followed the sport, they only care about two names, Arnold Palmer, and the recent addition to the golf scene, the Golden Bear. Evan sighed as one of his fellow casters took over for a bit, hoping that they would take a while. In his head, he dozed off a little. What he wouldn't give to have been in Scotland. He could have been surrounded by all the greats of the golf world. Instead, he was stuck in New York. Well, yes, he had a better job than nearly half of his neighbors. He sometimes wished for something more. A better life for him would be putting around on green all day. At least then he would get better at something instead of sitting in front of a teleprompter. Then he quickly snapped out of his dream as he realized he was live in less than a minute. Stevens continued after his fellow caster finished. As I'm sure many of you are watching now, the event had nearly been cancelled due to increased East and English military presence due to their membership in the Unity Pact, an alliance made up of the allies of a German regime. However, these fears have been toned down after reassurance from the Scottish government. Wait, Palmer placed in what place? I'm expecting an event coming up from Madagascar soon enough. But I'm curious if it's happening or not, because I've had mixed luck with it happening. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for the next episode. I gotta cut it here, folks. Thank you as always for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, go and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat or play games, I have a Patreon down link below, a Discord down link below. If you want to see review bucks my way, I have a Patreon down on. And if you want to watch me do a sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch. All those links are in the description box below. That's really it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. My name has been DB333, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.